everybody to MVP Office Hours. My name is Jared Kingston. I'm MVP and Solution Architect with Aperio. Help organize the office hours. If this is your first time on the office hours, it's really just an open forum. So you can speak up on the audio, you can chat, you can raise your hand if we're currently answering a question. So it's just open and we're here for you. We have several MVPs on. If you guys could raise your hand, I think I see all of you. I just want to make sure I'm not missing any of the new ones. All right, cool. All right, so we'll just MVPs. If you want to introduce yourself, give your give your name, who you work for, and kind of your area of expertise, so we know who we have on the call. So we'll start with Dale.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Dale Ziegler. I've been an MVP since this spring, so a handful of months, and I work for the Kansas City Southern Railway, so I am with a customer, and I am an administrator and specifically a solo admin, so I take it all on myself. I do everything declaratively, admin, development, all of that on the point-and-click side of things.
Awesome. Thanks, Dale. Let's go to Jackie.
Hello, everyone. This is Jackie Travieso. I am located out of the Carolinas, specifically South Carolina, focused mostly on Sales Cloud, getting ready to dive into more of some Service Cloud to get some more experience there. I've been an MVP since spring of 2013. So if you guys are ever in the Carolinas, look us up. We'll meet and have some coffee.
All right. And last but certainly not least, Philip.
Bringing up the rear here. My name is Philip Southern. I'm in the Carolinas as well, specifically Greensboro, North Carolina. I'm an independent consultant and developer under the company name Clicks to Code. I've been an MVP for I think about a year and a half.
All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and get started. Who wants to kick us off with the first question? And don't be shy.
Dreamforce questions welcomed as well.
Yeah, definitely. If you have questions about Dreamforce, we are here to help.
Does everybody know that the Agenda Builder goes live on Monday? It's an important date.
Say what?
Yes, crazy, right?
Didn't even realize that. Is it going to be right at midnight?
I have not seen a time announced, just a date.
You know, I don't. Midnight might be it, because a couple of years ago they said it would be midday, and it was available early in the morning, so they'll flip that switch whenever.
Yeah. That's good to know. Looks like, Jen, you have a question?
I do. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just discovering flows and process builder right now. What's your best gauge of when do you still use workflows with the admins that are in the MVPs, or have you transitioned all to flows? And if not, when would you gauge when to use a flow and when to use a workflow? I've only used flow so far if it's a cross object that's not a master detail, but I wondered if it's more efficient than if I use workflows.
This is Dale, and I can take that one because I love both pieces of functionality. Rule of thumb is to keep your functionality as simple as possible, and so when I say that, if you can accomplish something with a workflow where it's just simply if this criteria, do something to that particular record or send an email alert or whatever, keep it as simple as possible, and then if it is more of a cross object or multiple things to do, then get into flow, because I think where a lot of people get tripped up, and I'm guilty of it as well in my past, is I love using flow, but I've overcomplicated things by going straight to flow when a simple workflow could have accomplished what I needed to do.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
And to add on to that, I think the issue, well, not an issue, but a caveat of Process Builder and the Flow engine in general, and someone correct me if I'm wrong, is it's still not bulkified. So when you do large data transactions, you potentially hit errors if you have some code that's attached to those objects and events.
Absolutely, and I've run across that even on some very small data sets where I didn't even realize I was going to go over limits. I still did, and I broke my flow. So yeah, bulkification is definitely an issue you have to be concerned about.
And Dale, this is Jackie. Would you also say that given Process Builder being new, we should be focusing on Process Builder if it can do it before workflows?
I would say because Process Builder is new, going back to the keep it simple, also go with the tried and true. I mean, Process Builder is not without its bugs. Flow, I would even say, still has a few residual bugs. I'll be honest, I only have one Process Builder in my org, and it's working. It's doing as it's supposed to do, but it's nothing complex because honestly, I'm not quite there yet with the overall reliability. When you read about posts on the success community and some of the other questions that get asked, I'm not ready to pull the trigger on everything just yet. So I am still in the flow behind a button or workflow space. So.
Okay, that's good input. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Jessica, you have a question.
I do. I actually have a couple questions.
Go for it.
All right. The first one is we are about to implement the duplicate management in our production. We've had it in Sandbox. We're just kind of slow to put it out there. And we're ready to go, except I'm trying to build out the email alert templates. We're going to allow them to enter, our users to enter it in, even if it finds a duplicate in the match. But if we allow it, we want to be able to send an email alert saying, hey, we somebody submitted a contact. They got an alert saying it was a possible duplicate, but they added it anyways. Now the problem with the email alert is the fact that I'm trying to build out a template, and I don't know how to make the field show both features, or even if that's available. Like I want to show what the what duplicate management found as a possible match, and what the contact was that they actually entered in. And when I went to build it, each field is a contact name and a contact account, and so it was just pulling in one of them. And I don't know how to separate that out so I could show both, or I don't even know if that's available. I just couldn't find any information online about building out the email templates.
That's a good one. Any MVPs have any thoughts on that?
I haven't messed with any of the email templates, but I've always just used the functionality that when you edit or create a record and it finds a duplicate at the top of the screen, it lists all of those records so that they can make the decision right then and there when they're editing or creating a new one. It'll give the list.
Yeah, we do. We do have that where it will show that, but we have one person in our organization who is like the contact guru. If you add a contact, you have to answer to her. So if there's any instance, so right now we have a workflow that every time a contact is entered in, she gets an email alert saying, "Hey, new contact," so she can go in and look at it to see if she considers it a valid contact for our instance. And so she still wants the same capability that says, "Hey, a new contact was added," but it, this alert popped when they added it. She kind of wants that, that extra.
Have you done a Google search for this particular objective?
I have. I've looked online for email templates regarding duplicate management, and there just wasn't anything that I found or anything valid for what I was looking for.
And I just did some research this morning on some functionality. I do not recall coming across anything that called out an email alert. We can create reports And that might be a solution where she can run the report whenever she wants to get the list. It does require creating a custom report type, so that might be helpful as well, so that she's got a self-service tool.
Okay. Yep. I can do that. I can put a report.
And with, this is Philip, and with emailing, specifically on workflow and email alerts, or even process builder and email alerts as well, email alerts are very flat, and what I mean by that is whatever record that is triggering off of, you can show specifically, just that information or just the field values off that record. At the point you want to display cross-object or even cross-record data, meaning let's show data from 2 or 3 records either on the same object or across different objects. You can do that, but that's going to require code in a Visualforce email template, where the Visualforce email template is what's going to be triggered, and then components within there are going to call Apex classes that are actually, querying out data and then surfacing it back up to the email template.
Okay, yeah, that's a little beyond my ability. Okay, all right. I think I'll just tell her that she can stick with the report. Thank you. Okay, I have another question too. That's on a whole different topic. Let's see. And I got so involved with my first question, I forgot what my second one was. Let me think on it, and then I'll come back.
Not a problem. All right, who else has a question?
Okay, well, if somebody else is going to go, I'll go ahead and give you my second one. I remember what it was.
Go for it.
Okay. I have a user that requested the ability to hold group email, like we have in Microsoft Outlook, group email inside Salesforce. So when they use, the standard, send an email button on the task, then on activity history, then they want to be able to choose a group email. They don't want to type it in on the additional 2, or because we've had workarounds, but they actually want to be able to have Salesforce store it somewhere, and they can just pick the group email. I didn't know if anybody had a workaround for that.
As a to or a from address?
To.
Is it an actual email address? Like anybody could email it and get to that group, or is it like an internal just group?
Internal group.
I would imagine if you reached out to your IT department that there is it's probably several hundred characters long, but there is an actual email address associated with that if you could get that exact address, you could probably just make a contact record with that as the email address and then reference it.
Okay. So there's a long email address associated with the group.
Potentially. It all depends on how your organization would have your Exchange server set up and all of that, but I would be willing to bet.
Okay. Well, I can certainly ask them. And
let me ask this question. Does that activity also need to be put on a contact? So if you went Dale's route of creating a contact specifically for that email address, does it also need to be associated with a customer contact or a prospect contact?
That's a good point.
It might. In some cases, yes. Normally it's like they've had a case they want to send an email out on to the group in their department saying, hey, this is an update across the board, or maybe somebody outside. We have a bunch of sister companies. We're all under one big company, and then we have several, like 5 or 6 sister companies underneath it. And then so we might send it to somebody who's not in our particular Salesforce org, but they're still within our company, because we have, about 4 or 5 different Salesforce orgs between the sister companies.
So I actually I just did something in my org that if you did need to attach it to a customer, you could send it to that contact in either CC or BCC or additional to whatever that email string is. So you could still, you could end up attaching it to multiple contact records in the end if that is a need.
Oh, okay. All right. We'll give that a shot. She's willing to try anything at this point.
I was also working on, and I did not complete it, so it didn't get through all of the testing, but I actually was working on creating a custom button to send an email to a system admin to say somebody was requesting an ownership change, so we had locked that down, but the purpose was to generate that standardized email template and pre-populate the to field with a system admin, a dedicated system admin email address. And I got 3/4 of the way through it, so that might be an option as well, where you have some sort of custom button where you can determine all the parameters. Like I said, I haven't finished it, but I was getting pretty darn close.
I did consider doing something like that, because we have a lot of custom buttons actually, and we're just trying now to transfer some of them over to publisher actions so that we can use it on Salesforce One. But it's not any. Wouldn't we have to have a button for every group that we wanted to send it to? Because it's not always going to be the same group.
Yeah, then you would. Yeah, if it's not just a solution for one group, then yes, you would need a button for everyone, which is probably not ideal.
No, not as many email groups that we have. So, but I'll try. I'll see what. I'll go in there and talk to our IT people and see what they can do about see what's on the back end of that email address or that group email address, because I don't know how it's set up. But I'll give that a shot. We'll see how it works. Thank
All right,
you.
good luck.
All right, thanks, guys. All right, who else has a question? Jolie, if you have
Yes.
anything. Go ahead.
Yes. So Salesforce for Outlook, sending emails to Salesforce. We have auto signatures with lots of little icons. Can you guys tell me an easy way to go in like once a month and delete those out of Salesforce? Just the icon attachments.
So there's a graphic at the bottom of your outgoing email through Outlook, and it's putting that graphic as an
Yes.
attachment in Salesforce?
Yes, it is.
Oh.
Thousands and thousands of them.
That's a good question. I've never tried
It's something
this
I've
before.
It's something I've been putting off because there's just other, bigger things to focus on. But we're getting tight on space, so every little bit counts now. Although I believe that actually is file storage and not data storage. Is that right?
I'm just going through report options to see if we can get to something like that.
Okay.
Has anyone else had to do something like this?
Usually, so this is Jared. Usually what I've done is just simply by going to where's it? Oh, yeah. So I usually go to data management, storage usage, then
Okay.
Start looking at the file usage. I usually just go by like a user by user basis, and then there's like a user user top files by storage utilization. Can't tell you how many. That may help. The other way I think you have to do it is either probably through some code of some sort or potentially the data loader, but I haven't tried that. But I know you can get to that, but I don't know that you're going to be able to build it.
Which edition are you using?
Enterprise.
So the data loader, you might be able to get to an export of the records that have attachments or what those attachments are.
Okay.
Using the data loader. The thing is, I just don't know if you'd be able to decipher, is it a graphic? I don't know what the export would look like. So make sure you test it before you start relying on that to do a deletion.
Okay, so data loader is the path to take. I would make an assumption, and everyone would be aware of it, that JPEGs and whatnot, those would be the items that are automatically deleted, and if they needed to retain something that was significantly important, they would have to convert that to a PDF or some other file type.
You might also look at the file size to use in just a comparison. So if they're all, the same file size, and I would go through and I'd look at a bunch of them just to make sure, and then you might say that that's kind of like your proof that, or your standardization that I can delete this because of the file size. Are they attaching photographs or anything else manually?
Not manually, no. Okay. It's all via Salesforce for Outlook.
Okay. That's what I would do for my troubleshooting.
The only other thing I could think of is I haven't tried it in a while, but there is an app out there on the App Exchange called Attachment Manager. It uses Ajax, so it's older. It's been out there since 2007. But what it allows you to do is to basically run a report. It has its own custom tab with code and whatnot behind the scenes, but it runs a report on the criteria you set, and then you can select those attachments and delete them right from there. So I'll paste that here into the chat. Like I said, I haven't tested in a while. The reviews on it aren't amazing, but so I'm not sure. So looks like there's a limit on the records that it'll return, so you'll probably have to do it in batches. But
I appreciate the mention. I'll definitely check it out.
all right, Jen, you had a question.
I do. I just wanted to know, we recently had some issues with a lot of the test cases. It prevented me from deploying using ChangeStack because there were some issues, and we didn't make any updates to any of our code. It's just suddenly, and of course after I got back from vacation too, that all my test cases were failing and it wasn't allowing me to deploy anything. Has anyone experienced something like that, and did it have anything to do with the release?
Hey, this is Philip. So yeah, that happens frequently. That's not an isolated case. A lot of environments run into that issue, and what happens is it's nothing to do with the releases, and usually the code doesn't change. There's a change in production that affects how data and records are built in your system that then start causing test classes to fail. So the most common example or the most common offender is new validation rules in a production instance. Your test classes, you know, I guess just some background in case people aren't familiar with test classes. Your test classes are actually mimicking data inputted into the database and then, you know, testing different scenarios. So your test class is actually, you know, building an account and inserting into the database, or building a contact and setting some fields and inserting into the database. So what happens is if you start making validation rules in production, or you start making field requirements. So, you know, if you go to the object and go to a field and say this field is always required, if you make that change in production, any test class from that point moving forward that is not populating that data in the test class is going to fail, because the system's going to throw an error saying, you know, wait, you wanted to insert this contact in the test class, but the email isn't entered, or, you know, the last name isn't long enough. Whatever the validation rule or the field requirement is. So that's long explanation, but how do you fix it? Well, you've got a couple of different options. One is you fix the code. You know, you go into Sandbox, you make those updates, and that's going to be inevitable. It's going to happen. You know, you're going to have that scenario where you put new validation rules, and it may break some test classes. The second option is if it's something you're trying to push to production through change sets pretty quickly, or there's an urgency around it, and you've got the leniency to turn those rules off while you do the push to production, that's one way around it.
Oh, you mean turn off the test classes? Oh, the validation rules.
Yeah, the validation rules. Yeah, you can't turn off the test classes.
Do you know if it's the validation rule that caused the error?
It would. So when you run that test class, and when you do the change set, it's going to tell you error. But if you click into that change set and you view the details, it should tell you which test classes are failing, and it should give you an error message with it. Now, if it is a valid,
at that, and the error that we got was because of it was querying a data object that has more than 100,000 records.
Okay, so
and we've always got over 100,000 records for certain objects. It suddenly came up.
Yeah. So here's the issue with that. When you have an object that goes on over 100,000 records, Salesforce has a requirement that in your code, if you do a query to that object, it has to be selective. And what that means is that query has to be super specific, and it has to reference fields that are indexed, like, you know, ID fields or any kind of external IDs. So what sounds like what's happened is when the code was originally put in your environment, your table, your object, let's just say it's accounts, was under 100,000, so you never hit that error. Well, now over the course of time, now you have more than 100,000 records, and those test classes are going to fail because they're referencing code where a query is not being selective enough. So that is going to require a code edit, and that's going to require. I mean, it's not really. I wouldn't call that a bug. It's more of an optimization, right? You're at a certain size as an organization, and now you're at a bigger size. So really, the code it needs to be optimized. You know, can you get around it? Yeah, if you've got some data you can clean up and bring that total count down below 100,000, that's a pretty quick way around it.
Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you, sir. Great explanation there. All right, Jessica, you had a question.
Hi. Yes. When I was looking at our open tasks yesterday, and I came across a person who had about 835 open tasks, and I was trying to figure out why they have so many to get it cleaned up. And what it looks like is they have been using the email to Salesforce, that little customized email address that you can put in your CC that'll move it into Salesforce. They've been using that process, but they've been using it on cases, and it doesn't work on cases. So now she has like over 800 unresolved emails for cases that aren't attached to anything. They're not attached to accounts. They're not attached to contacts. They're just sitting out there. So one, is there a fast way to clean that up? And two, is there some kind of workaround without having to download a an add-in? Is there a way to basically move those emails onto cases from Outlook to Salesforce?
Can you repeat, have any thoughts there?
I don't, not without actually taking a look at it. I don't know if this tool would help you or not, but you can at least take a look at it. It's called Enabler for Excel, and it's not something that you download into Salesforce. It's actually something that sits on your desktop and is connected to Excel. And it allows you to bring data in from Excel and from Salesforce into Excel. There's a connection there, so as you're working through the spreadsheet, you can make on-the-fly updates directly in Salesforce without going into Salesforce. With that said, I don't know if you can get to the data that you're looking for in order to use a tool like that to clean it up or move it around.
Well, she does.
That would be something that I would look at.
Okay, I wrote that down. Now, she does have the reference ID in the body of the email, and that's the 15-digit ID code for the case record. So with that reference ID, is there like a bulk way to kind of pull that out? Or anybody know a trick to pull that reference out? And
you want to pull that directly from the body of the email, huh?
Yes. So I can just quickly pull them all out, and then I could import them into I could load them somehow into Salesforce once I got them cleared up. But
I'm wondering if you could, in the enabler for Excel, parse out, pull in the comments or the body of the email and then parse it out after that reference number or at that reference number.
Okay. Well, I'll give it a shot.
Okay.
Thank
you should be able to use the enabler for Excel for X number of days free. Otherwise, it's $300 a year. It's a very inexpensive tool and does a lot of magic.
Okay, cool. All right, thank you.
Yeah, good thought there. All right, who else has a question? To Jackie and Philip, are you guys? Do you guys have any sessions, any speaking sessions this year at Dreamforce?
I do not as of yet. No, I don't. I'll be in the admin zone doing a lot of the support through the different stations.
I have one. It's not posted yet because we're still haven't done any of my review. We've got the session plan in place, but there's still a couple more review pieces that have to be done. I'm told it's going to be posted in the sessions next week or the week after. But it's in the developer zone. I think it's the developer theater is where it's going to end up, and the name of it is Configuration in Disguise. For anybody that attended the Midwest Streaming Conference in Chicago, it's a very similar session where we talk about how configuration and development can really work well together. Configuration being stuff like custom settings and labels, field sets, and even flow, and how code like Visualforce Pages and Apex can work with configuration and find out what the instructions are for what the code is supposed to do, and then enabling non-coders to change stuff about pages and code through those configuration pieces without actually having to write a single line of code.
That sounds awesome.
I'm in.
If there's anybody on the line who hasn't gone through the list of sessions to try and figure out of the I don't know, more than 1,000 sessions that are posted there right now. There is a tool that Deepak Anand created, and it sits on the, I think it's in a couple of places where you can go and download it. But the chatter group that I know it is on, it's called the Shrine of Deepak Anand. It was created by Steve Moe. And you can download that package into your dev org, and it will create basically a session tab, and it will list all of those sessions, and you can do some filtering. And I exported all of the records and went through them in Excel so I could do some different filtering and sorting and things like that to get to my 29 records or 29 sessions that I knew I wanted to attend, 24 sessions that I really wanted to take a look at when the videos went live, and then the rest of the 900 and some sessions that were either duplicates or in the developer realm or a partner realm, things that were not of interest to me. I was able to whittle down that 1,000+ list into those 3 different sections in about an hour. So you might take a look at that. You can also add some custom fields if you want and do whatever you want in your dev org and get to your wish list so that when it goes live, when the Agenda Builder goes live on Monday, you've got kind of your plan of attack. And then the cool thing too is once those sessions have the videos attached to them, you'll be able to go back into your dev org, into that same session tab, look up the ones that you wanted to view the videos of, and then start working through those post-Dreamforce. I always find that is difficult for me to parse those out and figure out what's my plan of attack. And now I will actually have a list that I can tackle one by one without having to get through 1,000 records of trying to remember what it was I wanted to follow up with post-Dreamforce. So that is something I thought might be an interest to anybody who hasn't selected their sessions yet.
That's awesome. That's really great. I appreciate you sharing that.
And it's free. And here's something special that you guys should know too is Deepak has never been to a Dreamforce. He's in India, and he's never had an opportunity to make it over to the U.S., but he does all kinds of crazy, awesome things like this for the community because he's a community lover. So check it out. And if you're not following him or taking a look at stuff that he's posting on Answers, he's a wealth of knowledge.
Do you have a link to that, Jackie?
I will look it up real quick and I'll post it.
Awesome.
Good thinking.
That's great. Awesome. We got about 15 minutes left. Anybody else have any questions? Anything we can help out with? Dreamforce, Salesforce?
Is there anyone on the line who has not been to Dreamforce in the past but is going this year?
Nobody. Okay, cool. Jen, you have your hand raised.
I do. Just a weird question. Was Advanced Admin always called 211? I thought it was 301 before.
Yeah, so I think it was 301 before. They are changing around a lot of the courses as I know they're like adding some additional ones. They're kind of revamping that a little bit. So yeah, I think they're going to start keeping it within the different number range there. So 211. I haven't heard the actual ones, but I know they were changing that up, at least that structure. So that, yeah, I think it's the same course, maybe a little updated, but it's a different number.
Okay. Is it worth taking the training for it, or should I wait?
Well, in my personal opinion, I mean, it depends on how long you've been an admin and kind of the complexities of your org, I guess. I mean, when I when I did it, I had already experienced a lot of the things the advanced admin course would cover. I had already had to dive into that within my own org before taking the course. So for me, I was just able to kind of take the study guide and that way without going through the class. That being said, if you haven't, I would take a look at what is covered within that course. And, if the majority of it you haven't interacted with before, you could either go to the course or you could just try to brush up on it outside of the course and then take the test. But, if you have already experienced those things, I think the advanced admin, honestly, is one that you could definitely take the test without going to the course.
Okay. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Jared, it's Jackie. I just posted a link to Deepak's blog post.
Got that. Thank you. I just posted it to the group.
There you go. Thanks.
Okay. That's awesome. Anybody else have any other questions? I will say look out for an event called Meet the MVPs that will be happening at Dreamforce. It's the second year of it. It was a great event last year, just kind of connecting people in the community with the MVPs. So, especially if you're interested in becoming an MVP, it's a great place to meet all the MVPs there. So definitely be on the lookout for that.
Jared, also, and I know Dale had to jump off the call, but he is starting something called the Solo Admin. If you're not following Dale on Twitter, you might want to do that so you can get in on these solo admins. And my understanding, it's going to be a lot of live discussion and sharing of challenges and solutions. So there's going to be a visual component to it, I believe, so that you can kind of see what people are talking about and the challenges. But anyway, his name is Dale Ziegler. You can find him on Twitter.
Do you know his Twitter handle?
I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah,
I think it's DZIEG11. You get that?
Yes, thank you.
You got
The
it.
only thing about Dale is he's a San Francisco Giants fan. But other than that, he's a great guy.
That's okay.
No, it's not okay. They beat my Royals in the World Series last year. I'm still a little bitter. All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, we'll end there then. Appreciate everybody joining. MVPs, thanks for joining and offering the great insight as always. And we will see you guys in 2 weeks. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.
Thank you.